So my name's John Deer. Like he said, I'm Manlius Town Supervisor, previously one of the town councilors here in Manlius. My wife and I moved up here when I was back doing software work. I worked for a company in the village of Manlius for about 5 years when we moved up here. We came from Long Island. We couldn't afford it down there, so we found a place that had a much better cost of living. Really moved up here, lived in Liverpool for a year. Before I moved over to Fayetteville to be closer to work, and really we just fell in love with the community. And as time went by, we just started getting more and more involved and meeting new people. And in 2017, I originally ran for town clerk against the current town clerk, Allison Weber, who is now one of my best friends at Town Hall. We get a lot of good work done together. She was key in a lot of the transparency and social media aspects that we've taken on. But really, once I ran for town clerk, I was very interested in politics. I left IT completely, ended up working on campaigns professionally, sometimes as a field organizer or field director. And my wife and I own a political consulting business right now that I do. That's what I do during the day. And so, I ended up wanting to help people get elected. And then when I started talking to folks at doors and really understanding a little bit more about what local government was about, I decided that, the truth is there's no real qualifications to run. It's about, wanting to do better for your community and make the community that you live in a better place and try to solve as many problems as possible. So I decided to run, and my focus when we ran the first time in 2019 was on transparency. We were very lucky that after we were elected, we worked pretty quickly to get some basically video for our town board meetings that was pushed out live to Facebook and YouTube and whatnot. We got that online just before the pandemic hit, and we were able to actually assist some of the villages in meeting the guidelines to have public meetings so that we could all kind of continue to go about business right at the beginning of the pandemic when we were all kind of in the dark about a lot of stuff. We didn't know what was coming down. So once we came back into town hall, it was great to be able to maintain the ability to broadcast what we were doing. I had a lot of folks that would tell me that, they were watching our town board meetings while they were doing the dishes the next morning, or, they had it on in the background where they were doing some chores or working. And it was great to hear that, people were passively consuming our town board meetings, which, I'll be the first to tell you, they generally aren't that exciting. We're approving the last 2 weeks worth of purchase orders and invoices. We are passing laws so that we can do, small things around town hall, signing agreements. Sometimes we have some interesting stuff. We hear zone changes. We hear proposals from other folks. But really, it's being able to get folks to that point where you're kind of just paying attention. So one of the takeaways, I'll probably say this about 10 more times. If you take anything away from this, please have it be go to townofmanlius.org. We just redesigned our whole website and launched that. And there is an option to sign up for the agendas. If you get the agenda in your mailbox every 2 weeks, you can quickly scan it. And if nothing's interesting to you, then guess what? You don't need to tune in for the meeting. But every once in a while, there'll be something on that you go, you know what? I would like to make a comment, or I would like to know what's going on. That would be really great for me. And that's where we can kind of make sure that everyone's informed without having to necessarily waste your time to see us walk through, a long contract or a seeker process, for a law change that's coming up. And really, that's kind of been my focus when I was the town councilor. I was just trying to make sure that we were providing as much information right up front as easily as possible, and also continuing to get people to sign up. We actually, our clerks at town hall rolled out what they're calling highlights from the clerk for all of our different boards, specifically town board and planning board. So you can actually look on there and you'll see, you get kind of a little summary of the meeting without having to wait for the minutes. So there's a ton of different ways to stay in tune. We're on Facebook, we're on YouTube, we're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, everything we can get to. My assistant's been helping me get out some information to Nextdoor. So really, the goal here is to make it so that if you're interested in what's going on in local government, you have the ability, and we're trying to meet folks where they are. That's, I think, when Bill talks about my vision for Manlius, it's really starting from that point of I want to make sure that as many people that want to know what's going on have the ability to know what's going on, whether they watch a stream on Facebook, whether they read the agenda in their email, or they get the highlights from the clerk, just to kind of catch up on what's going on. And I will give a shout out to the Eagle Bulletin for providing great coverage. They do a very good job of making sure that the issues that people are concerned about and they want to know about, and they're able to tease those out of our meetings, and we do get some pretty phenomenal coverage from them. Always, it's always in the vein of informing folks, which is fantastic. So I really appreciate that. Thank you to Dave Tyler for all the work he does there. And really, when I think about my vision for Manlius, that's really where it is. I want to make sure that we are running efficiently, that we're providing the phenomenal services that we do. We are very lucky to have an amazing police department, one of the most highly qualified police departments in the state, let alone in Onondaga County. And our highway department is fantastic. Rob Cushing, our highway superintendent, who's been there for quite a few years, he does a really phenomenal job of making sure our roads are safe and clear as soon as possible, and really does his best to provide amazing maintenance to our fleet. So when we turn around to sell the trucks because they're no longer useful to us, we've got plenty of people that are looking for specifically for our equipment because they know how well Rob does and the team in keeping that equipment up to a very high standard. So we really are in a fantastic situation. We've got amazing staff down at Town Hall. And so the goal isn't, my vision isn't to radically change anything. It's to make sure people know what's going on, and it's really to just start moving forward little bit by little bit. One of the things I'll be talking about a little bit later is the automated trash system that we're moving to. Basically what this means is there's less of a labor issue when it comes to picking up garbage. We all get standardized totes. And quite honestly, it's good for our local environment, which is a big reason I'm excited for it. And so, when we kind of talk about my vision, one of the other things we ran on in 2019 was a comprehensive plan. So the town of Manlius hasn't had a comprehensive plan ever. The villages have had them for quite a while, but we as the town have never had a comprehensive plan. And what that is it's a piece of legislation that a town can pass that is generally built off of lots and lots of feedback from the community, to essentially lay out guidelines so that people, it's almost like a brochure for the town of here's our natural resources and here's how we want to highlight those. Here's where, commercial and business makes sense. Here's some of the best residential. There may be stuff in there about preserving green space and greenways and making things more connected. And that is absolutely a pitch. Right now, we are working on that comprehensive plan. If you go to our website, you can go in and you can find I think at this point, 20 or 30 different focus groups. We also have a platform called Civil Space that allows for surveys. I was actually just talking to Bill about this, about maybe getting it set up in the library. But you go on there and there's these short surveys. And what we're trying to do is just glean some very basic information about what people want to see in Manlius, what's good, what needs improvement, and where do we see ourselves in 5 years. Because the comprehensive plan, generally speaking, is good for about 5 years before it needs to be looked at again and addressed. And so we've had everything. We've got a stormwater study group that's been working hard. Anybody that lives in town probably has had some issues with drainage before. I want to make sure that we're always prioritizing. It's a huge quality of life issue. And so we had one about, I think it was childcare, about elder care, about walkability, connectivity. There's a ton of good information out there. The steering committee meetings, I think recently have been online on our Facebook and on our YouTube. I was actually very lucky to be able to join for the last steering committee meeting, and the conversation was really enlightening. They've been working really hard for a while now, and they're just starting to get a lot of that draft language in place. So this is if you haven't been paying attention to the comprehensive plan so far, this is a phenomenal time to get involved. A lot of that fact finding has been going on, and now is a great opportunity to weigh in and say, hey, I really like the direction. Or if you see something that we're missing or see something you disagree with, this is a really good time to start raising those questions and providing that feedback, because the goal is to have a plan in place that helps guide the town board and the planning board, and really also any of the developers that are looking to build here, any of the home builders that are looking to build here. It's about coming to an agreement about where we want to be moving, and then start to put the things in place to move in that direction. one of the things we'll be doing as part of the comprehensive plan is a zoning update. We're going to be sitting down with our current zoning codes and really asking ourselves, are these the zones that are going to lead to the Manlius that we want? Is this enabling, mixed use, or is it allowing, and if you know Manlius, we go all the way from, the main street through Fayetteville over to Kirkville, Manoa, Manlius. We've got a lot of different smaller communities within our larger community. And so the goal here is to kind of build consensus. Where do people want to see development? And then allow us to move forward with kind of a shared plan and a shared vision. So I know when I was campaigning for town supervisor, I told folks, people want to know about my vision. My vision is a comprehensive plan where everybody gets a say in the process. We all feel that it's the best plan we could have put together, and we stick to that. My plan, my vision is to make sure that I'm doing everything I can to support town employees, to make sure I'm supporting our department heads, to make sure that we're looking at a fiscally responsible budget. And really being a spokesperson for the town and a cheerleader for my town councilors that do all of the work that I've been talking about. One of the things we've just achieved is climate smart communities. We've achieved the bronze level, which essentially means we've been taking steps to make our community more sustainable in various ways. We get a bunch of different points for different things. One of the things we did was we ran a community solar program to sign people up for community solar, for heat source pumps. We've done informational meetings, and we've seen, that with advocacy, and that actually helps us win grant money to then further either make improvements to our infrastructure that make them more sustainable, or to do more PR and more outreach to kind of allow folks to do, things that are sustainable in their own home, in their own life. So if you don't know, Sustainable Manlius is one of our committees. It's a citizen-led committee. We've got a gentleman, Eric Radley, who's been doing a phenomenal job after taking over from Ryan Dunn, who really was the backbone of us getting to the bronze status for climate smart communities. And what we found is that we asked folks that if they can help us move forward and accomplish that work, because something that a lot of folks don't realize is that our employees at Town Hall, they're working real hard every day. So you get a bunch of counselors come in who want to do all these fun and exciting things. It was really important that as much as possible, we didn't overload those employees. And so by having the community involved, we've been able to really bring people that have never had any connection to local government into the process. And it's nice to see them realize, like, oh, I forgot, government is a little slow. It runs on 2-week cycles. And that's been a great process. I feel like we've had a lot of people who've been able to learn so much more, which is just fantastic. And I know Sustainable Manlius, we have another pitch, Earth Fest on April 30th. I believe it's from 10 to 2 or 10 to 3 at the Fayetteville Library out in the little gazebo area they have. We've got some big sponsors. I know Kia of East Syracuse is sponsoring us. I believe there's going to be vehicles available for a test drive, but don't hold me accountable for that. The big thing though is we'll have solar installers, we'll have heat source pump installers, anything that you can imagine that you might do for your home that'll make it more sustainable and eventually provide you a savings. They'll be there ready to talk to you. You'll also have a ton of folks from the town, from Sustainable Manlius, some of the counselors there to answer any questions. We'd love to have larger conversations. There's going to be music and a food truck. So it's going to be a great event. If you have an opportunity, stop by because it's going to be a fun one. And so that's, Sustainable Manlius has been doing a lot of great work, and I we love to support them in whatever way we can. But they're really, now that I'm supervised, now that I've been there for 4 months, what I've found is that it's really kind of incumbent on me and my assistant and the staff at Town Hall. A lot of what we do is just helping people understand what the rules are, how they go about things, helping connect them with different resources. I can't tell you how many times I get a phone call and it's just a question about how do I get in touch with this, or I need help with this. And it might be as simple as sending them to the right agency or connecting them with their state senator or state assembly member. And that's really important work because at the end of the day, government does the things that we don't either trust the company to do or that we want to run a certain way, based on how we democratically believe it should be run. And so we end up with a lot of tasks that really no one else wants to do. So I've been really happy to be able to help connect folks directly, whatever resources they need. And really, that keeps me pretty busy. I've had a lot of calls about drainage, and I tell everybody I'm happy to show up. Kind of you let the frustration come off a little bit, and then I'll take some pictures, and I'll talk to the people who know what they're talking about, our engineers and our highway superintendent, who can really start to help us solve these problems. And I will say I've really enjoyed it so far. It's been an exciting and interesting role, unlike anything I've ever done before. But like I said, I'm enjoying it. I think we're getting some good work done. And so one of the other things that I've kind of worked with my finance committee to do is kind of extend the budgeting process. The department heads are always tinkering with their budgets, and we're always looking at them to make sure we're on track. Are we spending the right amount of money? But what we started doing was having these kind of more casual conversations about the budget, understanding, what the goals were. Because really, a budget is a moral document. What you spend money on is what the community, or what we think the community believes in. So we're always looking to make sure that, if we've over budgeted or under budgeted, that we're getting as close as possible so that our budget is actually representative of what is happening in town. And so this is giving us an opportunity to ask ourselves, what's the nice to have? If we end up having a decent budget this year, what's the nice thing to have? Where do we want to see? What's going to help us provide better services? What's going to help us be more responsive to the residents, or even just make us more efficient and save money? And so by kind of extending the budget process out into April and May, rather than, June, July, and August, we've been able to start to tease out a lot of really good stuff and, make sure that this budget that, we end up passing towards the end of the year, it considers all these things, and we can look for opportunities. Maybe 2 departments or 3 departments can work together. Or maybe there's a piece of technology that they could all use. If we budget it for one department, it might be too much money. But if we're using it from 3 departments and it's going to save us time, well, then we can find a way to move forward with those kind of upgrades. One of the things that I worked on as a counselor was our zoning map. So if you don't know, on the Town of Manlius website, we've got a new little icon that says Maps. If you click on that, you'll actually go to an interactive zoning map. It'll show you the whole town, and it's all zoned based on whatever our zoning is. And it's super intuitive, because one of the things I suggest is go look up your house, see what your house is zoned at if you don't know what it is. You can see information about the parcel. You can turn the parcel layer on and off, so you can really start to understand how the town is zoned, because zoning tells you what you can and cannot do on that piece of property. And it might be interesting to see where the more commercial zoning is. You've got industrial running along the railroad and at the quarry. You've got various types of residential zoning throughout the town. So, kind of going back to the comprehensive plan here for a second, you can start to see that zoning tells a story of how we have developed, and also what our, kind of short-term insights are for how we'd like it to develop. And that comprehensive plan is going to work with the current zoning and the updated zoning to make sure that where we want to be is how we leverage our zoning. So we can make sure, like maybe right now, our commercial zoning, there's only really 2 or 3, because there's a couple transition districts, zones for commercial, where we might find out that we need more. It needs to be more flexible. Maybe, it's not just whether or not is this commercial property going to have a gas station on it. Maybe we want to separate it more. So it's, big box stores versus more, what's the word I'm looking for? Boutiques, that kind of stuff, or even like light manufacturing. Maybe somebody could open a pottery shop here or there. And so with our zoning, if we can get that up to speed, to kind of give us that forecast we're looking for, it helps us grow in a way that we've all had a conversation to talk about. This is how we want to grow. And I think if you're interested in the comprehensive plan, take a look at that zoning map, because it really does tell a story of where we've been, and really where we think we're going. The comprehensive plan is going to help us to, rather than where we think we're going, where we know we want to go, because we've talked to the community about that. So that's what we've been working on. Looking at my notes here, I don't think I missed anything. What's coming up. We actually just posted some information about our updated trash contract. So we had a 5-year contract with Syracuse Haulers that ended last year. And so we went out to bid. Syracuse Haulers was the only bid we got. So we worked with them to, make sure we had a contract that was going to be good for us. And one of the big changes that's coming is automated trash service. So just a disclaimer here, if you are in the village, we do not pick up your trash. That's the villages. They each have their own independent system for that. In the town, though, basically every resident is given the option to sign up to be in the trash district as well as the brush district, and then you pay a fee on your taxes every year. So that fee is a little bit larger this year, but that's because we went from a 5-year price that was locked in for 5 years, which ended last year, and this current price we are locked in for another 5 years for that, just to give some clarity to there. But the big thing is going to be in the automated service. So right now, Syracuse Haulers is going around and they're picking up either loose bags from the street out of your can, and then you've got the recycling bins that are pretty low to the ground. They're open. So with automated service, the way this works is the truck has an arm that picks up the garbage can and dumps it into the truck, and then they just move on to the next one. So what that means is everybody in town who signed up to receive trash services will get a 95-gallon tote. It's a heavy-duty tote, big wheels. It's got a little foot bar, so it's easy to maneuver. It's got a lid that doesn't, that's attached to it. Everyone will also be receiving a 95-gallon recycling tote. And this is what I'm really excited about, because I just put out my recycling today. It has yet to be picked up. And as I pulled it into the driveway, I saw a piece of cardboard that had flown down, 50 feet down the road, and I had to go pick it up. And that happens a lot, especially we used to live in the Homewood neighborhood. If it was windy, it was pretty terrible. You'd have to go out, you'd grab all the recycling, or you had to get it out there super early in the morning. So with the new service, all the recycling will be contained within a new bin that rolls out right to your curb, and the truck comes and picks it up, and then you just roll it right back into the house. We are going to have a lot of information coming out about this. There's going to be options for additional totes, for smaller totes eventually. And we also do expect some people who will not receive the carts, and that's likely because they haven't signed up for trash service. So if you find yourself in a situation come the week of May 23rd and you don't have a new cart by the end of that week, give us a call at Town Hall. We'll make sure we get you signed up for the trash district, and then we'll make sure you get those totes so we can continue picking up your trash. And a very good friend of mine once told me, and a couple of other counselors, that local government is about trash and plowing roads, and that's the bulk of what we do. That's why I like to spend a little bit of time on the trash change that's coming down the line. We'll be available. Syracuse Haulers is going to be fantastic with handling any issues that we have. It'll be a little bit of a growing process, but we'll get through it. And then some other things that we're doing in this budget is really considering resiliency. Making sure that we have a staffing level so that we don't have employees that are overworked. Because we saw through the pandemic, we need to be more resilient. If someone gets sick, we don't really want them in the office. We've made sure we've upgraded our phone system to allow employees to take their phone home. If they can't get into the office, they can plug it right into their internet at home, and it's just like they're sitting in the office there. We've transitioned almost every employee over to use laptops so that if they do have an issue, and this is even great too, if some folks live outside of town and maybe their road doesn't get plowed as quickly as they'd like, they can preempt that, take their laptop home, take their phone home, and get that work done from home. And also too, just to allow for a better work-life balance. But when we look at how the town hall operates, we just want to make sure that there's enough redundancy built in, not to be excessive, but just to make sure whatever pandemic comes or weather event comes or someone has to leave or anything like that, we just want to make sure that at any point in time we are ready and able to provide, again, the top-notch services that the town of Manlius has to offer. If you've had the pleasure of stopping down by the clerk's office, whether it's to get a passport, marriage license, or even a dog license, you know that we have fantastic staff that are always happy to help. If you ever have any questions, I'll tell you, you can give the town a call, you can ring my office, you can ring the clerk's office. You will find somebody who is more than happy to give you some time, allow you to kind of explain the situation, ask your questions, because we're always just trying to make sure that when you call town hall, you get the answers you need. Like I said before, government's a little slow, so it can take some time, but we really like to focus on that, because at the end of the day, unless you live in a village, this is the closest form of government you have to you. And so, we want you to know that we're here, we're a resource, we're working for you every day. And that's one of the big things when we talk about the transparency and also knowing what's going on in town. My hope is before you have to, before there's an issue and you have to come to town hall and find an answer and it's frustrating, I would love it if everybody had an opportunity to interact in a positive manner. Come talk to the clerks, get your dog licensed. Come talk to the assessment office and ask some questions, or pay your taxes in person, just to see that we've got some fantastic community members that show up to town hall every day and work really hard and just really do a phenomenal job of meeting our needs. So if you haven't had an opportunity, if you haven't been to town hall, stop by. There's not that much exciting stuff going on all the time, but it's good for you to know that this is the building where your town operates out of, and this is where we are. And I ask everybody who's listening, whether in live or recorded, get your neighbors in touch with the town. Make sure that everybody has an opportunity to see what's going on, because that really helps us. Because that feedback is good. I tell people, we can be on the different sides of the issue. I want you to call me and email me and tell me your opinion, because the goal isn't to win this binary choice. It's to always come to a compromise somewhere in the middle that, yes, so one side is probably going to get more of what they want, but the goal is to make everybody not as happy as possible, but to meet their needs, just to make sure that we're moving this along and we're not, leaving anybody behind. Excuse me. And so let me just look at my notes here. So that, like I said, get folks involved and in touch. If you want to volunteer, if you've got time, I know the police department is always looking for volunteers. If you're interested, the highway department's always hiring. But even just coming to the meetings and being part of it, I can't tell you how many good ideas have come up because someone, stays a little after for a meeting. They're like, hey, I know you guys are talking about this. I'd love to hear this, or love to see if we can do something here. And it leads to good things. That's, there's no bad ideas, as long as, we're just having a casual conversation, but we do have so many opportunities to kind of build on that. And like I said, you can watch the meetings at night on Facebook. You can watch them the next day on YouTube, and those highlights come out. But really, and also something that I'm pretty excited about is we're working on a newsletter. So this is, we're always trying to get a little bit better at communication. And so that's why wherever I go, I tell people to sign up for the emails. But we are working on a newsletter. I don't know exactly what the publication schedule will look like. The first one is going to be focused on kind of like a informational guide about what's, Manlius government, how we operate, who the departments are. It'll have upcoming events. It'll tell you a little bit about some of the initiatives that we're taking on. It's going to heavily highlight the trash updates so we can get that into people's hands. And we are hoping that through digital distribution via our email system. So if you're signed up for town news, and we'll probably add a special section for town newsletter, we'll see, you'll see that newsletter coming out hopefully beginning of May, maybe a little bit towards the end of May. And then we'll also be printing out physical copies and just kind of dropping them around town where, where folks are willing to host them. I have a feeling we'll drop off a stack at each of the libraries, the villages, the fire departments, the police station, and then any of the local businesses that like to help get the word out. And we are considering eventually doing like an actual mailing of it. It is very difficult because this is one of the issues we face with communication. If we send a letter to every resident, it costs us about $7,000. And that's a pretty sizable chunk of change for one letter. And, we can put a couple of sheets of paper in it, but it's really not a sustainable model. So that's why we're trying to figure out how can we do this distribution in the newsletter so that the people that want it can get it, but also how do we get that exposure so the people that don't know what's going on can see that newsletter. And, obviously it's going to have sign up for the emails, take the surveys for the comp plan. But it's going to give us an opportunity to just, again, try to meet people in a new medium. We're all over social media and the internet. We're in the Eagle Bulletin, but, a newsletter that comes from us that's easy to consume, that's more conversational rather than reading a story or reading the minutes or something like that, just so that we can try to meet everybody where they're at. And then I always say, if there's any suggestions for how we could be better at communicating, I'd love to hear that. Really, I had someone who emailed me. And, they asked a couple questions, and I just asked them in the email, what would be a good way for us to communicate? Like I said, we are a very big and diverse community when it comes to what each of our little smaller communities look like. So, for some people, Facebook is the best medium, for some, YouTube. And I'm very hopeful that for a lot of folks, that newsletter will be the thing that, maybe it's quarterly, it gives them an opportunity to see what's going on, see what's coming up, and then also to provide feedback, and just to see, what the government is doing. Because we do a lot of stuff. Not everything gets, a story written about it because there's only so much space. But like I said, follow us, check out what's going on. The brand new website looks fantastic. It's really easy to use. If there's any feedback, we'd love to hear it. And I'm just trying to think. Yeah, I mean, that's my vision. I want everybody to know what's going on, and I want to have constant conversations about what could be better, what's working really well. I mean, I'll tell you right now, you want to stop by the police station, the highway department, or town hall and tell folks they're doing a great job. They'd appreciate it. And yeah, so I guess that's probably everything I've got. I'd be happy to take some questions.